right.
First question.
Okay.
And I've heard it a couple times here.
Okay.
Aquaman and the sideburns.
Yeah, I mean, so we don't have to strictly adhere to what's in the comics. You know, we have a little bit of latitude, quite a bit, actually. But I thought that was cool, so I kept it. You know, if I think something's bad, you know, I'll find a way to not include it. You know what I mean? But I think he looks pretty badass.
It's a different look.
You're not feeling it?
Oh, I mean, I'm just not a sideburn guy myself. It's a different look for him, and it's different from what we've seen over the years,
sure.
which is a cool thing.
Jim did it in his version in the comics, so I liked it, so I kept it.
So what do you what do you bring to the character? Like, what is the most thing that you are excited to bring to yourself to the character?
You know, for me, I'm always just trying to be faithful to the themes, the core themes of the character, the traditions of the characters, while also, you know, adding my own personal spin to it. You know, I think when I sit down to draw a character like Aquaman, what's great about him for me is, you know, and this is debatable, but a lot of people have, you know, just kind of written him off, or there's a lot of talk that he's not as cool or not as, you know, badass as like Superman or Batman, which I think is absurd, but it makes my job a little easier because expectations might be lower or whatever. I mean, I think so. For me, I'm going in, I'm just trying to do something that feels classic, but is also, you know, I'm updating it, I'm bringing it into the style that we've established for these films, and you know, we haven't introduced him in these, and he has the classic, you know, Justice League characters all have such an iconic look. They have, you know, you know, their colors are so specific. They're, you know, the real primary stuff. So I don't ever feel like I'm at a loss when I sit down to work on a character like that.
When we're doing these movies now, there's much more of a continuity with the series now than there ever was in the past since these films started.
Sure, yeah.
So does that give you the same opportunities, though, to sort of bring new elements to it? Or?
Yeah, it's a better opportunity. What we have now, we used to do a lot of one-to-one adaptations. Like, we're trying to be as close to the comic book, and we were doing, you know, really classic beloved stories, which, you know, is a double-edged sword. You know, you have the fans are clamoring for Year One and Dark Knight and all that stuff, but you have to be really faithful to the style and the aesthetic of those books. You know, you have to try to do Frank Miller. You got to try to do, you know, David Mazzucchelli. You got to try to do all that. So with this stuff, you know, we're parallel to the comics, but we're not doing straight adaptations anymore. We're creating our own internal narrative, our own cohesive continuity that's independent of it. So it means that I can refine the style as I go forward. I'm not constant. Like, if I'm designing in a new style in every film, you got to figure out, well, how would so-and-so draw a police officer? Like, I don't have to draw any more police officers. Like, I get to spend that time on Black Manta. I get to spend that time on, you know, Mira and, you know, all these really great characters. We get to reintroduce them and, you know, fully, you know, give them our full focus. Like, you guys don't want me spending forever trying to figure out how to draw a fireman in somebody else's style. I think it's going to lead to like a really cool, cohesive look for these films. So it makes my job a lot more fun, a lot easier.
You touched on this a bit, but you've got, you know, you start with the iconic looks, right?
Yeah.
But then how do you go about drawing out various elements to create them in your own style? Or what do you decide? How do you decide what to punch up or what to emphasize or de-emphasize?
Man, I mean, there's some stuff that you just have to keep, right? Like, you don't. With Wonder Woman, you got to have the tiara and the armband, or the, you know, the wristbands and the stars. You know, their colors are always a real obvious place to go, but you don't want to jettison or abandon anything that's classic, that's fundamental. Like, you know, I don't have because it's hand-drawn art, I don't have the challenge that some of the live-action stuff has, where they're worried if it's going to look silly or whatever they have to do to trick it out to make, you know, quote-unquote people buy it, which, you know, I'm not sure I agree with that either. But yeah, I mean, it's by the very nature of the fact that, like, you know, my particular drawing style is you know, been doing it for a while, but it's essentially a new look for these characters. So I have that already. Like that's just instinctive. That's just how I draw, and so it ends up feeling like a new take, even though it really isn't. I'm trying to do, you know, my version of what I loved about Alex Toth's Super Friends and Bruce Timm's Justice League and all that stuff. I'm just doing it in my own particular way. So these characters are already, in a lot of ways, already designed for me. Beyond that, I'm just trying to come up with something that mechanically works for the medium of animation. What can, you know, 1,000 artists draw consistently and draw really well and make look cool? So there's a lot of thought that goes into that.
Some of the guys in Pixar, they'll say that when they're blocked or they're stuck for inspiration, they'll go to their big screening room and they'll throw on like a Hayao Miyazaki movie or something like that. So you're stuck for inspiration or you're stuck for design. What are you going to do? What's your fallback?
What's my fall?
Well, what's going to inspire you in terms of design?
I got a lot of like old 1970s like samurai stuff playing on my little screen. I was like a Lone Wolf and Cub or, you know, Shogun Assassin or whatever you want to call it. You know, I go everywhere for inspiration. Like sometimes, you know, the stuff they're doing in the live action, you know, stuff will inspire me. I mean, I'm an avid gamer. I play a lot of video games. I pull a lot of inspiration from film, you know, video games, wherever I can get it. Like I'm not above stealing from everybody. You know what I mean? So it's whatever I'm consuming at the time tends to come out in my work.
Was anything a real challenge or a real blocker for you on this film?
It's always tricky to figure out how to like do certain, you know, like the environmental aspect of a world like Atlantis. We have to lay down some ground rules, figure out, all right, do they breathe underwater, or are they, you know, under in some kind of a bubble or force field? So that affects how you approach designing hair, affects how you approach designing, you know, the clothing, the drapery. Like there's certain stuff that will look great if it's constantly moving with the waves and stuff. So there's always a design challenge that's contextual, and that was one of the challenges for this film.
When designing Atlantis, did you think of any in particular locations, or was it just something that, you know, like how the whole structure of Atlantis? What was going through your head when you were designing them? What was the inspiration behind that?
As far as the environments, we have a team of BG. Like I didn't work on that stuff. I'm primarily character design. So, but yeah, I mean, you know, we definitely, for me, like doing the character stuff, like I was looking at you know, I wanted it to be, and I think this is also reflected in the environments as well. I want it to be, you know, exotic and otherworldly, you know, but it still has to feel ancient, right? So, you know, you can, but at the same time, the mythology surrounding Atlantis could be, you know, it's an ancient culture that's futuristic, right? Yeah. So I'm looking at stuff like certain things that Mobius did in the 70s, which is very similar to a lot of, you know, what Jack Kirby was doing at the same time. They have this like sort of, you know, future past, duality to their work that I looked at a lot. And you also want to look at the Greek mythology stuff for Atlantis, because that's obviously a huge part of it. So and then trying to infuse all that stuff together, create like a real good synthesis.
For this particular Aquaman, would you say that his image is like completely new, or would you say that there's elements from like previous Aquaman just incorporated within one character?
I don't think it's completely new. I think it's our take on who Aquaman is and always kind of has been in the classic sense. You know, he was always a founding member of the Justice League, and I think that he is that for a reason. So it's not it's actually, for me, I feel like it's a return to the original traditions of the character, but just in a modern context. I don't think it's new. I think maybe people haven't seen it for a while. Maybe that's more to it.
Do you think his status prior to this as being an uncool character was unwarranted?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there may be bad interpretations. There's bad iterations of every cool character. So I think for some reason people focus on him, maybe because, I don't know, talking to fish. Riding seahorses is not a good look for a man,
That's a big honking seahorse he was riding.
Yeah, that's true. Like, if you really saw it, I wouldn't mess with a dude riding a seahorse. So yeah, I think it's unwarranted for sure. And again, I don't think we're doing a brand new take. I think we're trying to show how cool he always has been and returning him to his roots as this core member of the Justice League. Cool. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.